What's up, everybody? I am Snickenhoff, and today we are going to play some Tyranny. Now, this is a game from Obsidian that is reminiscent of the old school, like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, games like that, of which I have played a ton. I'm a big fan, but also got a lot of modern, like, sensibilities. And one thing that's cool about this game is um, instead of coming into a world that's kind of set, you actually play in a world that's recently been conquered by an invading army, and you work for the bad guys. Now, you can go a bunch of different ways in the story from there, but it's a unique premise for the game. And I've played it, when it first came out, I played through Act 1, so I've seen a bit of the game, but Act 1 can be very different depending on the choices you make early. So I'll try to do some stuff that will make sure I get some surprises as well as you guys. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'm gonna play on normal difficulty.
For over 400 years, the armies of Kairos the Overlord have swept across the known world. All who stood against them fell before their might. Even the Archons, women and men of immense power, were forced to kneel, chained to the Overlord's will. Now Kairos' final conquest has come to our corner of the world, and two of the Overlord's armies compete for the honor of taking our lands. The elite disfavored, and the teeming horde of the Scarlet Chorus. The voices of Nerat, spymaster and Archon of secrets, guides the fierce and undisciplined masses of the Scarlet Chorus. With each battle, the Scarlet Chorus grows stronger, as the defeated are given a simple choice: serve or die. Graven Ash, Archon of War and the Overlord's most loyal general, leads the disfavored. Though small in number, Kairos' ironclad legion has never met true defeat in open battle. Watching over the two generals is Tunon, the Adjudicator, Archon of Justice, eldest of Kairos' minions. Tunon brings Kairos' laws to newly conquered lands, aided by the Fatebinders, judges and executioners of the Overlord's laws. You were among the youngest of the court of Fatebinders when Kairos' armies came to our lands. How could we have known that the fate of thousands would rest in your hands?
Alright, so that's kind of the build up to the game. And I'm going to create my character really quick. I want that here. I already have something somewhat in mind, so this shouldn't take too long. I'll go with the darker brown. I'm a big fan of this tattoo with the tree and the roots going down the arm. I don't know why, I just really like it. And I want it to be green and darker brown. My portrait, I want a guy with a beard. I think that's the only, like, dude with a beard. Portrait. So, for history, you get to pick one of these backstories, and I think these affect the skills that you start out with. I'm going to pick Pit Fighter, so I was like a gladiator in the ring, not wishing to pay to feed and house two. The madam that purchased your mother sold you to the proving grounds, the Northern Empire's bloodiest, most notorious fighting arena. Given only enough training to assure the show isn't over too soon, your natural prowess and survival instinct led you to one victory after another. There was no elegant swordplay, no formalized duels, just brutal melee and the stench of blood, shit, and bronze with each day's gruesome necessities. It is said that any fighter that slays a dozen others in the grand melee is given her freedom. but in the 300 years, only 3 warriors have ever walked away from the proving grounds. When the closing horn sounded and 13 corpses lay about your feet, you became the 4th to be granted freedom to thunderous applause. But this autonomy was short-lived. Within days, word of your accomplishment made its way to the Archon of Justice, and that's how we go to work for the Archon. And I'm going to pick, for my primary expertise, I'm going to pick Javelin. I like the idea of using a thrown weapon. It just seems really cool to me. And also, the Javelin is a thrown weapon, but also if you go into melee combat, you can use it as a melee weapon. And I'm going to pick Heart Shots instead of Hobble, which may be wrong, but... and then for my secondary expertise, I'm going to pick Spear and Shield. First of all, I just like the... I like the synergy, almost, of like, I use a Javelin, but then in melee combat I use a Spear. And also, I don't know, it just feels right with the whole gladiator thing. Maybe you don't have a sword or something, but you have like broken sticks that you learn how to use. And I'm going to pick... I can pick between Shield Slam and Sunder. I'm going to pick Sunder because it can be used with thrown weapons, so I can use it with my Javelin. I plan on using the Javelin primarily. I don't know if this is a good build. People have figured out good builds for this. I don't know if it's any good, but I like it. For colors, we'll go with like... Ooh, I don't like that. Let's go with like a black and a dark green. No, I don't like those dark green pants. I honestly kind of just like the black and gray right there. And then for a flag, we'll go with something like... Is there something that represents like a javelin or something flying through the air? These are kind of more arrows, but they could work. Sure, we'll go with that. And like dark green and black. No, black and dark green, light green, light green. Character name will be Sniggenhoff. And then attributes. So even though we're going to be using thrown weapons, might affects the damage of the thrown weapons. So I'm going to bump that up by 4. And then finesse affects accuracy, and quickness affects spell cooldown. So I'm going to go like 4, 2, and 2. It's probably generic and it may not even be right, but it'll work for now. Also, every time you level up, you can increase an attribute by 1, so we'll be able to change these later on. And then these are... It works, the leveling up system in this game works a lot like Skyrim does. The more you use a skill, the better like you'll be able to level it. And then once you level like 10 skills once, or gain 10 skill ups, you gain a character level. So athletics, it has it recommended because it works with both the javelin and the shield and spear. So I'm going to bump that up to like 40. I want to bump thrown weapons up as well. We'll go up to 40 with that. We'll leave that there, and then we'll split... Do I want to go with dodge or I want to go with parry? It's probably better to pick one or the other. We'll put it all into parry. Parry skill defends against melee attacks and spells. Higher skill ranks will reduce damage from enemy attacks. May lead for them to miss altogether. Defends against ranged attacks from bows, javelins, or magic spells. I mean, if we're staying at ranged with a thrown weapon, it's probably better to go with dodge then. So we'll put it all into dodge. And then this is where the game kind of starts, and you get to RPG your way through Kairos' armies conquering the land, the tiers. So this will be just a series of decisions we make. There's no actual like moving around the character gameplay.
Has fallen to Kairos, and now the Overlord's eye is on the tiers, our home. The last corner of the world free of Kairos' reign. 2 armies, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, march south from the Northern Empire, the last realm to fall to Kairos a century prior. In the early days of 428, Kairos' armies arrive at the Gates of Judgment, the mountainous border that we Tiersmen so long believed unassailable. Unable to agree on a unified plan of defense, the various leaders of the tiers sit and wait for each other to deal with the conquerors. until it's too late.
During the conquest, you'll decide your character's actions during Kairos' invasion of the Tears, shaping the world through which you will adventure over the course of the game. Each choice you make affects your character and how major factions of the Tears respond to you. Your decisions matter. Choose wisely. And I do know from having played a little bit of the game, it can affect very widely what happens in the game, the decisions you make here. And for the decisions, typically you're going to choose between either favoring the disfavored, the elite army, or the Scarlet Chorus, the army that's like a huge horde of warriors. And I'm going to go mostly with the Scarlet Chorus because I think it fits with my character's backstory. Like, he's unwanted, he's sold into slavery as a gladiator. He's able to win and become accepted because of that. Kind of like a common man sort of thing, instead of like the elitism of the disfavored. And also the Scarlet Chorus, like the you'll see as we get into the game, but the Archon of the Scarlet Chorus is like super cool. So I'm gonna go with them. The Bastard City stood on the northern border between Kairos Empire and the Tears, built on a natural harbor at the crossroads between the realms. The city was a nexus of commerce. To the Tears, it was the center of all wealth. To a northerner, it was little more than a backwater trading post. Its symbolic status as a gateway to the conquest made it a natural first target in Kairos' military conquest. Circumstances were ideal for you to prove your worth as a soldier in Kairos armies. Taking the city would send a message to the rest of the Tears. Kairos' will is insurmountable. So, there's two events I can pick from. I can either infiltrate the Tears, or we can fight at the Gates of Judgment. And my character's kind of more of like a warrior type. He was a gladiator, so we're going to go ahead and fight at the Gates of Judgment. The armies of Kairos took the battle to the Gates of Judgment, trumpeting the opening of the call of the conquest of the Tears. The two armies, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, brought their distinctive sense of order and chaos to the assault. You went to the battle alongside the army whose approach best suited your strengths. So I can either join the Disfavored, standing shield to shield with Kairos armored-clad elite. You advanced on the mercenary army, purchased by the nobles of the Bastard City. The Legion wanted to send a message to the Tears that the superior breeding and discipline training would win the day. Or I rushed with the chaotic mass of the Scarlet Chorus, flanked the Bastard City's army, and drove them to flee. I'm going to go with the Scarlet Chorus. You caught the mercenary army unprepared for the mania and disorder of the Scarlet Chorus. Your forces overwhelmed the Tears' defenses in a few short hours, hacking and burning their way into the continent. Any mercenaries who survived the battle found themselves initiated into the Scarlet Chorus, tortured ruthlessly by interrogators, or made the sport of competition as the army marched ruthlessly forward. So there's the first part of the Bastard City. So there's going to be three decisions we have to make. And again, we can either judge the enemy or feeding the host. Soldiers of the Tears fell by the hundreds, and Kairos' army could not agree on how to handle what few survivors they dragged back to the camp. Benefiting your role, the commanders turned to you to decide the fate of those who occupied the prison pens. There were only enough prisoners to support the plan of a single army. Or, against the most optimistic projections, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus made short work of the local defenses. They did so well that the armies quickly outpaced their supply caravans. Troops were plentiful, but food was scarce. You only had time to execute one plan to secure provisions. Let's deal with prisoners. So we can either... Disfavored needs slaves to haul their gear, dig latrines, and keep their pallets warm at night. You can assign the soldiers of the battle to their subservient role among Graven Ash's noble troops. Or give the prisoners a chance to serve in Kairos' army or die. The Scarlet Chorus was in need of extra troops to fill the vanguard, and your former enemies would occupy those slots nicely. Once again, go with the Scarlet Chorus. You armed cooperative ex-soldiers with scrap weapons and tossed them into the vanguard of the Scarlet Chorus assault. Those who survived were welcome to take up the arms and armor of the fallen and eke out a desperate struggle to survive in Kairos military. After their first victory, you rewarded the new recruits with the opportunity to execute their wounded or reluctant countrymen. And then taking the Bastard City. The armies of Kairos amassed around the Bastard City, the first bastion of the Tears to fall. Both armies longed to storm the walled outpost, the Scarlet Chorus howling for plunder, and the Disfavored forming an unbreakable shield wall. Your prowess on the field of battle had carried them this far, but there was one more step before total victory. Both of the armies had inspired schemes to take the Bastard City. Which did you support? I can either support the Disfavored, join the Disfavored vanguard in a direct assault upon the city gates. No fortification would stand before the Unstoppable Legion. By choosing this, I also start the game with this ability, which Makes me do less damage, but heal for 12 seconds. I can go with the Disfavored, which gives me a Searing Palm ability. Gather heated energy in your hands and release it onto a foe. This is very melee. Or I can go with the... it's like go with a neutral choice, and I can get Concealing Shadows, which gives myself negative 100 accuracy for 12 seconds, but a bunch of dodge and parry. Maybe something good for like if I need to back out of the fight and heal, or dump aggro onto another teammate, or even if I like take a bunch of aggro and they can just keep hitting me while my team does stuff. This is a melee ability, and this is like kind of like a tanky ability, so I'm gonna go ahead and take this one. Sure. Though it was challenging to earn the cooperation of both armies, their shared interest in taking down the city's defenses allowed your scouts to work as a single unit. Once your forces scaled the walls, a mixture of tactics and savagery destabilized the city guard, who quickly lost their command over the defenses and were forced to surrender. Lacking the support of archers or siege weapons, the bastard city fell quickly to Cairo's superior might. So that's step 1 in the conquest. Now for step 2, we get to pick between 2 locations. We can either go to the Apex or to Lethian's Crossing. Let's go to the Apex. The bastard city settled into a new state of normalcy. With every tower displaying Cairo's banner, your name was whispered alongside rumors of a decorated career to come. The armies divided into 2 fronts and migrated south. Tunon sent word that you were to join the next frontier of Cairo's conquest, either as judge and overseer of the settlement of the Lethian's Crossing, or as a war advisor with the armies advancing into the realm of the Apex. We'll go with the war advisor role. We're not a silly administrator who kill people. The Apex. The mountain nation of Apex, ruled for generations by the Queen's House of Vendrian, stood at the heart of the Tiers. No army could bypass the landlocked realm without leaving their flank exposed to attack. By the second year of the war, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus had pushed deep into the Tiers. Elements of both armies were dispatched to conquer Apex. Tunon assigned you to accompany them, tasked with bringing Kairos law to the territory as well as keeping an eye on both armies. So we can either fight in a battle or denial of strength. Again, we're more likely to fight in a battle. The Disfavored sent their most destructive ally to crush Edring Fort, Cairn, Archon of Stone, bringing the stronghold under an avalanche triggered from the surrounding mountains. The Scarlet Chorus were promised captured enemies for recruitment, yet none survived the onslaught. The Chorus demanded compensation, so we can either side with the Disfavored. You congratulate the Disfavored for taking the pass without risking the lives of Kairos' loyal servants. At this stage of the campaign, it was vital to use any advantage that would mitigate any ally losses, or uphold the Scarlet Chorus claim and demand that the youngest Disfavored scouts join the Chorus to settle the debt. And we're going to go ahead and side with the Chorus again. In the aftermath of your ruling, the main force of both armies turned out to witness the Disfavored scouts conscripted into the Scarlet Chorus, a rarity of which few could recall any precedent. Archon Graven Ash, though vocal in his earlier opposition, held his dignity and shed only silent tears for his lost soldiers. The Chorus mobs swarmed around the new recruits, hoisting them up and tearing at their Disfavored raiments as they began a hazing ritual that lasted through the night. Marriage Bed Armistice or Swords of the Fallen. Scarlet soldiers were seen wearing disfavored gear supposedly taken from those who fell in battle. The disfavored were outraged, citing tradition that their armor passed only to the next of kin within the army. In a debate of tradition versus practicality, you had to rule in favor of one army over the other, or the enemy readied for a peacetime festival as Kairos' forces armed for battle. The disfavored paid no mind to the southern custom and planned to attack the Vendrian forces during their annual celebration. The Scarlet Chorus insisted on a day of nonviolence. As a former Tiersman, many could grasp the decency of a temporary reprieve. Let's go with this one. So either side with the disfavored commander and pay no homage to this bygone custom, interrupting a cultural pastime and slaughtering your way through the non-combatants, or offer the locals their last feast, sending a few Scarlet Chorus agents into the mix in good faith. The army hoped that the gesture would foster an Arab partnership for the occupation to come. We'll go with that one. The disfavored are really not going to like me when we get to the actual game. The festivities went off as expected, and the Scarlet Chorus recruits you sent to enjoy themselves reported little animosity among the revelers. The disfavored protested your ruling as too merciful, and waged all-night training drills to combat the sound of celebration with an anthem of swords and shields. You sent the forces to attack the following day, a battle from which the disfavored recused themselves out of protest. And then the fall of the Apex. With the defeat of Apex and an inevitability, the armies of Kairos met to discuss how to put an end to this stage of the conquest. Both armies agreed to send an offer of parley. Along with their acceptance, the enemy requested that you appear at the meeting. Word of your fair dealings had apparently spread to their ranks. How do you orchestrate the surrender of the realm of Apex? We can either, through Dade's meditation, negotiate the surrender of the valley to Kairos forces, putting an end to further bloodshed, or taunting the Queen of Apex into striking you under a banner of truce. You baited the Queen of Apex into a duel and slew her, frightening her vassals into submission. I'm a gladiator. I'm good at one-on-one combat, and that's the chorus of the Scarlet Chorus's one, so we'll go with that. The Scarlet Chorus urged you to show the Overlord's strength by any means necessary. During peace talks, a well-placed insult goaded the Queen of Apex into striking you. You responded to the slight by challenging her to a duel. Though the Queen was skilled in battle, your field experience outmatched her court training. As her body lay cooling on the ground, you demanded that her followers kneel before the Overlord's banner. Unable to rise above the fear of the moment, the remaining leaders capitulated, surrendering the valley to Kairos forces. So we won it through individual combat. That's really cool. And then the final year of the conquest, we can either go to Stalwart, Vellum Citadel, or Azure. And I've done one of these three before, and I kind of can't remember which one it is. The land of Apex finally rested in the hands of Kairos forces. The Scarlet Chorus paused to revel in victory, while the disfavored prepared for the next fight, affording themselves but an evening's rest. Kairos armies radiated from the conquered citadel and worked their way across the tiers. The disfavored and Scarlet Chorus aimed to dominate as much territory as possible in the coming year. Your distinguished reputation in Kairos military left the choice of the next destination yours to make. Stalwart is easily defended position with rich military tradition. The realm of Stalwart was the most formidable realm in the tiers. Vellum Citadel, Kairos conquering gauge fell upon the Vellum Citadel, its treasures, its knowledge, its secrets, or dispatch the Archon of Stone to subjugate the nation of Azure. I feel like I've done Stalwart before, so I don't want to do that one again. Let's do Vellum Citadel. Why not? The Vellum Citadel was an archive and library of massive scale. Its inhabitants were known as the School of Ink and Quill, a circle of mages that centuries ago carved out their own mountainous refuge on lands unsettled by other major realms. Legends said that the Citadel housed a treasure trove of arcane knowledge. The Overlord's spies infiltrated the school and confirmed as much. The time was ripe to send a detachment to the Great Library Fortress and force the scholars to yield to Kairos. So, Chain of Command or Song of Ensnarement? Siren, Archon of Song, used her power to enthrall the enemy mages who crept beyond the Citadel walls. After Kairos forces rounded up the arcane practitioners, the disfavored began executing the new captives before they could share dangerous knowledge, a crime under Kairos law with the Scarlet Chorus. So we can either calm the disfavored with a compromise. The sages' mouths will be bound with iron bridles, preventing them from speaking their forbidden knowledge, or punish the disfavored for executing mages bound to the Scarlet Chorus, ordering that several disfavored soldiers be given to the Archon of Song as her personal bodyguards. And we'll go with that one. The wisdom of the sages and importance of the Vellum Citadel were too important to silence. The disfavored balked at entering the Archon's service, but your ruling left them with no recourse. Archon Siren, delighted in having new toys to play with, and promptly enthralled her personal guard. You spotted them in camp days later, following their new mistress with wide-eyed devotion. Spymaster's agents, or right of command? Command sounds more like something we'd do. The Archon of Song incited Scarlet Chorus recruits to fight their leaders. Bosses were killed and supplanted left and right. The disfavored demanded an end to the practice for the good of the conquest. So I agree with the disfavored arguments. The right of command had its place, but not when Kairos' forces were outnumbered and reinforcements were weak behind, if not longer. Or I rule that each Archon had the right to govern their armies according to their nature. The right of command bred chaos, but it also ensured that the strongest rise to lead. I don't know what's gonna... This may make some things be wonky, but we'll go with the Scarlet Chorus again. Your keen understanding of their ways pleased and surprised the Scarlet Chorus detachment, who thanked you for their ruling. The following evening, the two gang bosses were murdered in their palace and replaced by stronger variants who fought hard to defend their status. Though the camp grew quieter over time, the chorus fought with twice the ferocity under new leadership. And then the Edict of Fire. Disgusted by your approval of the Scarlet Chorus, the disfavored forces withdrew from the field of battle. Your small detachment now lacked the manpower to take the Vellum Citadel. Tunon sent word that Kairos' patience had run thin. The Overlord would cast an Edict of Fire on the enemy. The parchment arrived in a slender case of engraved iron. Written on it, the words of a spell powerful enough to destroy the Vellum Citadel. You had the choice of when to read the edict. Reading it at sunrise would offer your enemies no warning of the devastation to come. You could also wait until sunset, giving them ample time to flee or make amends. Go with the give no warning, which is the disfavored choice. Opting to give the enemy no quarter, you proclaim the Edict of Fire at the first moments of dawn, granting the enemy no warning of the destruction to come. Though the chorus insisted your actions doomed their spies, the disfavored applauded your decision, or claiming they still had spies within the Citadel, the Scarlet Chorus urged you to warn the mages of the Overlord's edict. Granting their request, you met with the enemy under a blue flag of peace and warned them of their doom, giving the chorus spies and the enemy a chance to run. We're going to go with that one. You confronted the mages with a warning and hoped the message was received. The hour before sunset, numerous figures were spotted fleeing the Citadel. As the sun dipped over the horizon, you read the words of the edict. The earth shook and red-orange light glowed in the foundation of the sprawling Citadel. Bubbling up from under the library, a torrent of lava heaved with explosive force, gushing from windows and between loose bricks, melting winding trenches in the surrounding land. Days later, the flames still raged on. The conflagration eventually continually fled and renewed by the power of the edict. The armies of chaos left the devastation of the Vellum Citadel in silence. From that day forward, the Tears came to know the once noble Citadel as the Burning Library. This was an undisputed loss of resources, knowledge, culture, and life. But a message had been sent. The Overlord will not tolerate defiance. You didn't have long to rest before Tunon called you into service once more. You were one of the last to depart from the mountains, and as you journeyed off, you spotted a few campfires in the mountains. They were mere specks, dwarfed by the inferno, the last gasps of survivors, or perhaps looters from Kairos' armies, bored and daring enough to pick through the ashes. And that is how the conquest went, or at least for our game. And it does have, those choices have big consequences on how the rest of the game goes. So, I believe, it's going to tell us in a second. But essentially, Kairos is now...
The year is 431, and Kairos' invasion has shattered all major opposition in the tiers. The Younger Realms, the Bastard Tier, the Free Cities. All who defied Kairos lay broken by battle, or bowed in surrender. The two armies of the Overlord, the Disfavored and the Scarlet Chorus, now control our lands. But our will is not yet extinguished. Not entirely. In the Valley of Vendrian's Well, those of us unwilling to bow to Kairos have banded together in defiance. Violating an oath of surrender from 2 years prior, we have staged a bloody uprising, murdering the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus garrison in a midnight assault. With their main forces spread across the tiers, the Disfavored and Scarlet Chorus redeploy to Vendrian's Well to crush the resistance. But months pass with no definitive battle. As disagreement and discord paralyze the Archons, we bide our time and wait for our message of insurrection to spread across the tiers. The Overlord is not amused, and Kairos has one message for the Archons: crush the Oathbreakers or die. Kairos backs this threat with an edict, a magical commandment that can slay all in the valley should the order be ignored. The honor of proclaiming this edict fell to you. Sent across the mountains to Vendrian's Well, you carry the Overlord's edict to read before the Archons. As you finally make your way through the winding mountain passes into the valley, the ground trembles, and Kairos' magic seals the way behind you. You are trapped in Vendrian's Well, with Kairos' armies and the Oathbreakers. The only way to survive is to fulfill the terms of the Overlord's edict, in any way that you can.
So that is how the game begins, and we're going to call it an episode right there and pick up with actual gameplay in the next episode. So if you guys liked this video and want to see more of it, feel free to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel so you can know when I post new videos. Also, leave a comment down below. Tell me how all my decisions during the conquest were wrong and how I'm a stupid poopy head. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.